It's the EP Podcast. Evergreen Park.
Evergreen Park Mayor Kelly Burke on this episode of the EP Podcast, brought to you by OSF Little Company of Mary Medical Center. Check out everything that they have going on. We're actually going to talk about some more expansion and what they're doing in Evergreen Park, specifically with the mayor coming up on this episode. But see everything they can offer you at osfhealthcare.org. Our first guest and our only guest on this episode of the EP Podcast is Mayor Kelly Burke. And the first guest is always brought to you by Porter Cullen's at 99th and Clifton Park. Live music Thursday, Friday, Saturday, heading into Parade Day on Sunday. That Thursday, Friday, Saturday, those sets all begin at 6 p.m. O'Leary's Lantern on Parade Day this Sunday at 11 a.m. And on St. Patrick's Day, where you can always find me inside of Porter Cullen's at 5:30 in the afternoon into the evening, Dr. Murphy's Band for the big party that will be there. They have a full March lineup of special cocktails, but they have all the Irish fare you can think of year-round, including a perfectly poured Guinness. I am sure I will bump into each and every one of you at some point as the high holiday approaches at Porter Cullen's. See more at portercullens.com. All right, I got to sit down with the mayor of Evergreen Park, and as I'm going to explain in this interview, there was a location she wanted to have it at. And so we head to another fine restaurant here in Evergreen Park, Spoken Vine Wine Bar and Bottle Shop, northeast corner of 95th and Kedzie, with the incredible small plates, the amazing arrays of wines, and a lot of expansion going on there as well, with Mayor Kelly Burke right here on the EP Podcast. From Spoken Vine, I have a very special guest here at the bar, Mayor Kelly Burke. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm glad we're at Spoken Vine. I just had to walk across the street from Village Hall instead of schlepping out to the Homemade Oak Bar.
Yeah, no, you get this. Before we even get started, I just want to let people in on something here. The mayor watches Frank Murray sit at this bar from the Evergreen Park Public Library once a month, and she keeps going to me like, when do I get to sit at the bar at Spoken Vine and have a little bit of wine and maybe get some of the carrots or something like that? And this was my response to it. We'll set up in the same spot.
That's right. Why does Frank get all the good vibes? So I'm happy. We're partaking.
There we go. We're partaking. We're hanging out here at this bar restaurant. And to be honest with you, this place it really is growing quickly. I'm sure you notice it. I mean, it started off in the section that we're in right now. And then they moved back a little bit. They opened up another area where they have the gaming room. And now they've opened up a third area where eventually the broadcast basement studios will be part of the third area back there. Plus they'll be having private parties.
Right.
And it keeps expanding. What do you think when you see a business that quickly? I mean, they've more than doubled their space in about a couple of years.
Well, I mean, I'm really proud of what Reed and Bridget have been able to achieve here. I'm a regular customer and really enjoy it, and having them expand to lunch hours has been great because it's I have done a couple work lunches here. I actually had Governor Pritzker's suburban outreach person out here to show her around, and
Governor looks like he eats. He might come here too.
The governor looks like the governor.
He looks like he would enjoy a meal here. That's
he would enjoy a meal here for sure. And his staff member enjoyed a great meal with myself and Clerk Duffy. But we're able. It's a wonderful place. The food is great. The atmosphere is fantastic. And Reed and Bridget and their staff have worked so hard to make this a success. But the community has responded and really supported them, which is what we need. And I think I'm a broken record on this, but if we want businesses to come and invest their money and their hard work here, we have to support them. And I think the community has really supported Spoken Vine and will continue to.
And one of the things the village did to support a lot of the restaurants, and I remember it happened coming out of COVID, it was the idea of we'll go with the video gaming machines to kind of boost them and give them a jump start. But you have a rule that I don't see in any other village or any other area around the south side when I go visit some other place. You have the keep it out of sight of the kids. Have a divider up. And you really don't
they don't invade the space. And now years after the village started doing this and giving out these licenses, it seems to me like it helps. It sets a base. It helps these places get off the ground. It was one of the things that was just added in here to Spoken Vine recently, is the idea of doing that. How do you feel that program has worked out?
I think we've struck the right balance. The village, as you say, did not allow video gaming for a long time. It was something that our existing bars and restaurants came to us and said, it's putting us, first of all, at a competitive disadvantage.
Well, people will leave because they're going to a machine someplace else.
And also, there's a lot of slow times in the restaurant and bar business, the winter times, things like that. And they said this helps us keep the door open. But what we didn't want were just strictly the gaming cafes. If other towns want them, that's great. But that's just not what we wanted in town. We didn't want to make the gaming cafes the primary point of the business. Having it ancillary to and sort of tucked away in its own space really has seemed to work out.
Awesome. So we talk about this business here.
Yeah.
There's several other ones that are thriving along 95th Street, but one of the things that I've also seen is some for sale signs on some of the businesses, or some of the buildings have for sale signs. You've got a couple places that have closed recently. Where is 95th Street right now? How do you feel about it, and are there potential businesses getting ready to move in?
Yeah, so that's a great question. It's a long, busy street with a lot of different individual properties. So there's always going to be flux. There's always going to be people coming and going, businesses coming and going. And so if you start on the east end, we've had some changeover there. We have the former Office Max building. So
I drove to it the other day because I didn't realize it was closed.
I'm
like, I host the EP podcast. I should know this is closed. I drove over there to go get some stuff. I'm like, it's closed. I didn't even realize it had happened.
So, Little Company bought that property. OSF bought that property, and I was just at a meeting with the administration over at OCF the other day, and they said their intention is to keep the building up and renovate it for some physician offices and physical therapy.
They're doing so much here.
First of all,
they're the new proud sponsors of the EP podcast, OSF Little Company and Mary, and so that's why the logo's on the show now. And they continue to build up facilities, and I mean they buy that building and that space there because they're expanding. How much of a partnership is that? How much of a benefit is that to the village? It's a little bit of a mixed bag. Okay.
On the plus side, I would say that the OSF and Little Company, I mean, they're obviously invested in the community. And, I'm on this, it's a community advisory board type thing. So they do keep us abreast of what they're doing and the efforts they're making to sort of reignite the connection to the Evergreen, Oaklawn, Beverly, Mount Greenwood, neighborhoods. And so they've invested in the campus, they've invested inside the hospital. They, I think, do a good job with their landscaping and keeping things neat. So they purchased that property at 99th and Western, right across from Jansen's. That was kind of derelict, and they really have done a fantastic job.
It's a great facility. We've been in there.
Yeah, bringing that up, and they have plans to further, implement that for medical uses. So it's good because they do a good job with what they have. So on that end, I'm thrilled for it. The negative part is that in some cases it depends on the use, but in some cases those buildings then come off the tax rolls and become tax exempt.
Oh, okay.
Not all of them. There's a lot of super complicated rules about what the use is and things like that. But
you get more doctors showing up, and they probably spend money in the restaurants.
Exactly.
There's an ebb and flow to the whole thing.
There is an ebb and flow. So it's probably six. I don't want to say 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I say it's like 6 of one, 4 of the other.
Okay.
But overall, I mean, the hospital, obviously, so many people have their doctors there. So many people in the neighborhood work there. It's something we want to really be strong and to be a great community partner. So they're really good to work with.
Yeah, that's news to me that they grabbed up that building. So now as we move east down the west,
then if you can picture, if everybody's got a mental picture of 95th Street in their heads, there's sort of that old bungalowy looking building right across from Popeyes.
Yes.
It used to be a senior residence, and after COVID, that model didn't really work, that small setting, and the folks who own that kind of walked away from it. And so the village, it became an eyesore, and the village recently obtained it. We're in the process of getting prepared to demolish it. We don't have any plans for it right now. I mean, it's a prime commercial space. I think there will be some interest, but we have to get through the...
you got to first take the eyesore down.
Exactly.
And then be able to present that property as something that somebody wants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll work through that. Then as you move further west, things are...
West, as we go by, we got new restaurants in there as we're moving along.
We had the place next to the long vacant and derelict place next to Spoken Vine.
Okay.
And we were able to acquire that. We've knocked it down, and we're in the process of working out something to create more parking. There's some issues with the railroad. We're having to kind of have have discussions with the railroad because some of the properties there, so working out some details.
And you want to make it look nice too.
And we want to make it look nice.
You want it to almost like blend in, like, yeah, this is yours, but we'd like to have like a tree here or something.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
We want to have some, and the railroad has some understandable concerns about, but they had a building next to the railroad tracks for decades.
Right.
So this isn't anything new, but you gotta work through it. And then as you go further west, I think we have some office buildings for sale. There's a law office for sale. The lawyers are retiring. A couple like insurance, more like office-y buildings. Some are looking to sell the buildings. Some are just for lease. So, working through those. What the village does is we try to work with, as part of our business development, we try and keep a roster of properties that we know are available for sale or for rent. And then as we talk to potential business owners, we make sure that they see where those are. We try to have the broker information. We're not really privy to the price.
Because you don't own all these spaces.
No.
Because I think
own
sometimes we'll hear a story like this space became available, the village grabbed it, and because, like you mentioned, there was one that was an eyesore, or there was one that might have sat there long enough, and you're like, look, we have better ideas for this, or maybe we want to rezone this. And I think sometimes people get in their head that, like, okay, when it becomes vacant, Evergreen just grabs it, and that's not the case. Some of these buildings are owned by brokers, by businesses that are in the area that also own properties in Evergreen.
Exactly, and they want to own them and they want to develop them. It's not, and some owners are more forthcoming with their plans than others. Some you're sometimes a little wondering what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to you, but also I'm not a commercial real estate professional, so I don't know all the ins and outs either. But
and you can zone something, but you can't tell them exactly what to put in there. Like Evergreen can't
Correct.
Open up a restaurant. Like,
no, we're not opening. Let us entertain you. We'd love let us entertain you to come here, Rich Melman. If you're listening, we would love to have something, but that's not. The village isn't going to open the business.
Right.
We try and create the conditions that make people want to invest in here and open businesses, and we try to make it as seamless as possible. And you can see that from the expansions that existing businesses have done. They want to be here. But the timing and availability of commercial properties is not something that's in the village's control.
This was probably a big subject at your last coffee with the mayor, right?
Yes.
I mean, so tell me what that's like. You just did one of these at the beginning of the month, and I always try to envision, we get to talk, so I'm not showing up for coffee with the mayor because we get to do this, but I try to envision what this is like. Like, do you get people that show up and they've got like a list of things? Do they have like that one thing that they're passionate about? What do you get asked about the most?
It's a little bit of both, but I will say it's a very conversational process, I mean, it's generally not hundreds of people, right? So it's an opportunity to have a nice conversation with me. I try and make it a real conversational style. I first ask everybody who's shown up to introduce themselves and talk about, where they live, at least what quadrant, and how long they lived in town. And it's a way for people to get to know their neighbors. And so that's good. But I would say some people come with something very specific, like they have an issue, and then I let them know, I'm so glad you came today, but you can just call me or send me an email.
I think that's something that people don't get sometimes.
At any time.
I have told this story to people who will come to me and they'll say, will you ask this? Will you ask that? And a lot of times I'll be like,
give me a call.
Just call
Just
her.
give
You
me
don't
a
need
call.
to wait till the show comes out. She'll actually pick up the phone.
100%.
Like, yeah.
But that's good. And I think, and this kind of goes back to something we've been talking about since I was running for mayor the first time, is trying to figure out the best ways to have communication with the residents, because it can't be just one channel. It can't just be one method, because we've got people of all different ages and ways of communicating, and we try to be in a lot of different channels. We're not going to be in everyone. I'm not going to be on your Reddit Substack, right? But I'm going to try and get the message out in as many ways as we can, and that might be a personal conversation at Mornings with the Mayor. For some projects, it might be where we have village staff or myself going door to door. It's social media, it's our email, it's it's Facebook, it's all that kind of stuff. So I think these are important because the people who come seem to really enjoy it. But like, we had one guy there this week, and he had a list, and it wasn't just things he wanted to know about, and a lot of it was about different buildings and different, what's going in that vacant lot. And I had kind of the same conversation. Sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we look at things and think, well, that seems like a lot of money for that.
Really?
That property, but it's not our decision, about how much when someone's going to offer property for sale or lease, what they're going to ask for it, things like that. So that was probably what we talked about most on Saturday.
Well, what's going on with the businesses
just
and
what's
things
going on
like
in the
that.
business. And some people don't have questions. They just sort of want to hear what other people are thinking.
Those seem like the big things everybody always asks about. They ask about the businesses because people want to see that things are healthy, right?
Right.
And then they ask about like police, because they want to make sure it's always crime and whether or not things are going well. I've had a chance to see the Evergreen Park real estate market when I sold my home recently, and I was able to take a look at that sale and see that the price tag of what I was able to sell the home for was higher than what the real estate agent thought originally.
Yeah.
Like, Evergreen is hot right now.
It is hot.
That right there tells you that, you might see a vacant building, you might have a question about this, but people want to get in here. I don't think that's isolated with me. I think that's something you're probably seeing too.
No, I see it all the time. And, I know you occasionally have local real estate brokers on here who can speak much more, speak as experts to this. But just my observation, of looking on Zillow every week and seeing what comes and goes, things go quick.
Yeah.
Things go quick. They get contracts. People are buying older places and renovating them, and then people are coming in and buying these beautifully renovated places for, a really healthy price. And there's just a lot of vibrancy, it seems to me, in our residential market.
What do you think causes that? Do you think that's the schools? Do you think that's when they drive in the neighborhood, they go, wow, it's pretty here, or they got nice places on 95th Street? Or do you think it's the idea that they get city services, but they don't have to deal with City of Chicago stuff? Like, what do you think drives that?
Well, so, one thing, and I'll speak from experience on this end. So I've been partnering with the Chamber of Commerce since I became mayor to do these welcome bags. So the clerk and myself and whoever's chamber president, so Frank and I spent a lot of time doing this. Now it'll be me and Percy Allen. the chamber makes these welcome bags. We deliver them to people's doors. And so to the extent, not everybody's home, but the feedback, so I like to ask, like, is this your first house? Where did you live before? How did you hear about Evergreen? What drew you here? And I would say the response we get most often is, I grew up here, I grew up somewhere nearby on the southwest side or southwest suburbs, or I have friends who live here and we would come to a party at their house and we just really liked it. We liked the atmosphere, we liked the parks, and then, folks with kids in school say, we liked how
school districts,
there's some great schools, and there's, access to private schools as well as public schools. And then they, talk about it's clean. Your streets get swept, the garbage gets picked up. There's a lot of recreational offerings, things like that. So I think it's all of the above.
I always get it's like a neighborhood. Like I have friends of mine that are out deeper in the suburbs, and when they come and visit, they always go, man, this is what it was like when we grew up.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I get, because I wasn't from here. I was from just north in the city because my dad was a Chicago cop. So we were over at 80th and Spalding until I moved in here when I started my family 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was the comment I got from my friends back then who had picked places out like in Orland or Tinley or Lamont or something like that. They'd be like, yeah, it's nice, but like here I feel like my kid goes running down the street and all the neighbors are paying attention just like I am. Like it's still like it's 1985.
And I think people like the fact that kids can walk to school. Whether everybody does walk to school, is another matter. But I feel like people like that. They like the scale. They like the personal feel of it. And I don't think it's one thing. I think we've just over decades have just created just a welcoming, warm environment where you get you get quite a bit for your money compared to other places, and you have a lot of services, you have shopping, you have good schools, you've got a great neighborhood atmosphere. It's all good.
Yeah.
Building relationships, supporting the community, and service. These are the things that Country Financial stands for. They're more than just an office you may pass by as you drive through Evergreen Park. They're neighbors who lend a helping hand and support the fabric of your community, including charitable organizations, sports, financial education, and civic organizations. And since Country is already your neighbor, they want to get together and chat. Call your local Country Financial representative, Mike Thauer, today at 708-425-1559 to talk about the things that are important to you and how he can help you protect them.
Speaking of events, you have a 5K coming up.
We have a 5K coming up.
You have 5K coming up. What day is it, do you remember?
It is March 21st, Saturday, March 21st.
Leprechaun Leap?
Leprechaun Leap. We've all heard of the Shamrock Shuffle.
Right.
So this is good. This is one better.
Right.
The Leprechaun Leap. And it's shorter.
So these things, I would think, you get interest the first year, and then if it goes well, it starts to explode. Yep. How many people do you have in there right now?
I think Rec told me they have about 125 signed up.
It's a solid number so far.
Great.
Couple of weeks out, yeah.
And so two things. First of all, I think Evergreen Parkers are famous for not committing to anything until the last possible moment.
Yes.
I've noticed that. And then second of all, it is March. People are looking at the weather and saying, do I want to commit if it's going to be 40 and raining? So we do have a deadline of March 16th, which is next week, to sign up for this.
I don't know. I would have made the deadline the 18th, and then that way if they're in a bar on the 17th and somebody talks them into it, they may just sign up.
We probably could accommodate some walk-ups. That's probably not a problem. But we'd like to have an idea.
I make a lot of my poor decisions on days like St. Patrick's Day. Right. So you might be like, who cares if it rains? I'm going to go run in that. Yeah.
Well, hopefully it'll be the day after, and people will say, I really have to get my life together. I'm going to start by running a 5K. But it's not just a 5K. We're also doing a bit of a party.
Yes.
Welcoming spring, celebrating, just the fact that spring is here, celebrating St. Patrick's Day. So we'll have Crake in the Carriage. We'll have a food truck. I think we have music. I'm going
to watch them run, and I'll just hang out at the party.
That would be. So the race starts at 10. The party starts after that.
Yeah.
We're going to have, the usual stuff for a race. We're going to have, core course board is coming to stretch everybody out. OSF will be there with blood pressure checks and things like that. So we're going to have kind of fun stuff. It won't be quite the extravaganza of Christmas or Oktoberfest in terms of the rides and all that stuff. But it'll be a good party. So come on by.
Very, very cool. I had a question for you, just because of the time of year it is, right?
Yes.
We got primaries going on.
Yes.
And I don't want to ask these questions when you're in the thick of a political race, but there's no
I got
political.
nothing.
Yeah, you got nothing going on right now. You got nothing going on. You're nice and relaxed. So you've been doing this now for a while. I mean, you were a state rep. You're mayor of Evergreen Park. You have an awful lot of experience in state and local politics. I get people who ask me all the time, how do I get into this? Like, how do I get to be, a mayor, a trustee, a person that runs for state representative, state senator, and they don't know how they get into it, but they've got the idea of, I'd like to be involved.
Yeah.
I wanted to pick your brain for a second. Like, what would you tell them to do first? Like, what do they run for first?
Well, so the first thing I would say is, let's put running for something to the side. I mean, running for office is a form of, service, right? But we all have other things we do for service, whether it's with your, whether with your school, your church, coaching something, working at a food pantry, volunteering for stuff. So you need to have that service mindset, because you're here for other people. You're not here for yourself.
You don't want to do this because you're angry about something, you want to fix it, and you want a paycheck while you do it. That's not what you should be doing.
That is the ideal situation.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So before I was state representative, I was a trustee on the Evergreen Park Library Board for 7 years. And I got into that because I was, my kids went to Holy Redeemer. I did a lot of coaching, Girl Scouts, all the stuff that you do. And one day, Nikki Seidel, who used to be she's the old Frank Murray.
I just saw her the other day.
A fantastic
she's
person.
A wonderful person. I saw her at the Sip and Sample. Yeah.
She had just started as the library director and was a resident, and really just knew she had a vision, for how she could move the library into the 21st century. And she was looking for kind of energetic people to be on the board, because she had a lot of, she was kind of looking for people, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but people with kids who wanted to see the library be more, right? And so I was at a school board meeting, or school PTA meeting, or whatever, it was Parent Club, and she came and spoke. And I'm a big reader and was a big library user, and could be kind of a disappointing experience to go to the library at that point. And she really, like what she was saying, really resonated with me. And so I called her the next day, and I said, if you're looking for volunteers, I would like to volunteer to be part of this. And she said, great, you just have to run for election. And I said, whoa. No, you didn't say anything about that.
I think it's a great story, because I think that most people would assume, like, hey, Kelly Burke, she probably just decided she wanted to be a state rep one day. You don't even think about getting into politics. You're just doing it to help out the library.
I was working. I had 3 kids. I hadn't really thought of it. It just seemed like something, but I had community involvement, you know what I mean? And so it turned out that it was not as daunting as I had thought, and she walked me through, the paperwork process. So I filed to run for library trustee and won, and it was an absolutely wonderful experience. It was a lot of work. During that time is when we put on the addition and the renovation at the library, and I was president of the board during that time, and Nikki and I, we have a lot of war stories going back to that whole thing. She's an incredible person who really did a lot to lead, to put the library in the spot it is now. And during that time, I thought, I really enjoy this. I really have enjoyed meeting people from all over the village, working together. And so then that's how I sort of segued into running for state rep.
Right.
But, so my point being, get your feet wet, learn, whether it's the school board, whether it's the library board, whether it's, the parents club, anything where you can kind of learn how to work with people, learn to figure out how to build consensus, learn a lot about the finances of your particular organization. These are all really good ways to train yourself to eventually run for something else.
And then the next thing you know, you're a state rep, and then the next thing you know,
you're mayor of
Evergreen Park.
I mean, can it get any better?
Right, you're hanging out in the middle of the afternoon with the podcast guy having a glass of wine.
I mean, this is not where I ever thought my life would go. I mean,
Me neither, Kelly.
I was an attorney. I had 3 kids. I worked at St. Xavier. Like, this is not where I thought it would go. But it's been an incredible experience. 90% of the time, so fun, so rewarding, so interesting. 10% of the time, a little bit of a headache.
Yeah, I would think you need to like people.
You need to like people, and you need to be able to listen.
Yeah.
And I have this thing somebody told me once, and I have adopted it. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately. And that is not a lot of people's MO.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Oh, my pleasure. Can I make a public service announcement? So we do have the March primary elections coming up, March 17th. So, I always encourage people to vote. And we have early voting open. Our closest site is Oak Lawn, but you can early vote pretty much anywhere in any early voting site in the county. Alsip and Oak Lawn are our closest ones. If you do mail-in voting, please remember that the rules have changed about postmarks. So your mail-in ballot needs to be postmarked ahead of the election day, so it can be counted. So I don't know how many people wait until, election night to post their ballot, but if that's you, please consider getting it in the mail a lot sooner than that, or there are drop boxes that the clerk monitors and maintains, and there is one at the Oak Lawn Public Library. You can drop it right in the drop box up to the closing of polls election day.
I've done the early voting over at the Oak Lawn Library. It's really easy. There's parking
peasy.
there. It's probably it's one of the easier ways to go and vote. I've done that several times.
And then you don't forget. You don't have, nothing gets in your way on election day, and you meant to do it, but you were running late. It's out of the way and done.
Yeah, vote in all of them. You get an opportunity to vote in every single one of these elections. We've noticed this over the last couple of years. Local elections make a big difference in your day-to-day life, so you should definitely vote in them. Mayor Burke, I appreciate so much when you sit down with me. I hope the next time we've got the studio all set up here in Spoken Vine.
I look forward to it.
They're going through this process. They're building a bar and everything. It's going to be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to having you there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give a plug for the EP podcast. And when we talk about businesses that have grown, I mean, you're obviously not, or we're not a brick and mortar place, but your business has grown tremendously.
Pretty big over the last couple of years.
You 100% rely on public support, from the neighborhood. And I know we've talked a lot about how you track whether your listeners are unique, or if you get repeat listeners and things like that, and and how you can try and figure out whether your listeners are coming from Alaska or the Chicago area, specifically Evergreen Park. It's fascinating, the information you can get, but you rely on the community to build your business too.
If it wasn't for this community, I wouldn't know what I would do, because the White Sox podcast, the ones I do for other villages now, the production I do for local businesses who want to promote their business, I don't get to any of that stuff if the EP podcast isn't being supported. So I've been very, very lucky, very fortunate.
All good.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Look at that. She made me look good at the very end of my show. Here, we'll have a little toast.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Slancha, as they say.
It's the EP Podcast, all things Evergreen Park. It's the EP Podcast, Evergreen Park.